In the 2012 election, we, the American people, the politicians, the crooks, spent $6 billion. Today in America, there are 5 million families, men, women, and children, who are homeless. Can't we do something to broaden Habitat for Humanity?
A part of the history now, and I'm about ready to close here, but a part of the history is that Habitat suffered, and Koinonia suffered, severe persecution in those early years. It's hard to realize that now. There are some books that tell that, and there's a DVD that tells it. But we were called communists, we were called end lovers, we were called everything in the books because we were building houses in the Southland for the poor, both white and black. The children of Koinonia Farm, even the white children, could not attend school in Americus. It was bad, and the Ku Klux Klan would drive by the Koinonia Farm and shoot shotguns into the playground, peppering the children with the pelts. So Koinonia's and Millard's response to that was always one of love and grace and forgiveness and understanding. But it had that early history. When we began on the walk, we ran into some of that.
And you said, no, tell me.
Well, I'm not a complete expert on Habitat for Humanity International, but I will tell you this, that Mildred Fuller and his wife were very successful business people in the business world, and made a lot of money, and they spent a lot of time making a lot of money. And then one day, I think God opened up their eyes a little bit and told them that there's more to life than just making money, and they gave a lot of it away, and they started living a more simple life, and they decided up in Americus, Georgia, that where they lived, they moved there. They decided that there were a lot of people there in shacks, and the housing was just non-existent for people without many means, and they decided that they would start Habitat for Humanity. I think it was God-inspired, and that was back in 1978, and in 78 they decided to, they started building a few homes, and Mildred started that, and he designed the concept of Habitat. And as again I said, I think it was God-inspired. Mildred has written many books about it being God-inspired. So I'm not taking leave of that.
I'll look up the books. I'm sure if you don't have them here, I can find them in the library.
Sure.
Get them through Interlibrary Law.
Sure. And as a matter of fact, since you asked about that, I can tell you that I just happen to have here the Theology of a Hammer. And Mildred Fuller wrote that about the habitat and what it means to do some things. So I'll put that on loan to you. I have a couple other copies, and I'll just give that to you and put it on loan. It's a great book, and it tells about it. And like I said, Mildred started that, and Jimmy Carter became friends of his, and after he left office, he wanted to serve others, of course, and so Jimmy Carter, President Carter, obviously he put it on the map. You know, he was the one that gave us, nationwide notoriety.
That's why I noticed, because he was out there with his head.
Sure.
On the things.
And people sign up a year in advance to go on the Jimmy Carter builds, and they have a Jimmy Carter build once a year now, and they'll build anywhere from 10 to 110 homes during a short span of time. So it's a real exciting event to go on, and a lot of people enjoy doing that. And Jimmy Carter, I keep saying Jimmy like he's my friend, President Carter, certainly President Carter takes the time to interview or to shake hands with everybody that comes on that build, and it's just become a real popular event.
And land-wise, I noticed that you've got one section over here off of, is it Oakland Gravel Road, that you built a whole bunch of?
Right. We built 27 homes over at Norbury Hill, and we currently are building out at Creasy Springs and Proctor Road. We have 10 home subdivision out there. We have another 10-home subdivision coming up in Hinton, just north of town, in a part of the town called Hinton, but it's a really small place. But it's just south or north of town. And then we also coming up have a place called Old Plank Meadows. That's south of town on Old Plank Meadows Road, and we have 33-home subdivision out there that we're going to be building on.
Okay, and in these cases where you're getting the land, does somebody make it available at a good price to Habitat?
Well, we have a committee that is a site selection committee, and they work hard at finding the good deals. And obviously, in the past, we've had land given to us. That doesn't happen very much anymore because land is pretty valuable here in Columbia. So we have to purchase all of our properties. But actually, the economic times that we've had in the last 2 or 3 years has really been good to Habitat because it's given us an opportunity to acquire some properties that normally we wouldn't have been able to afford. And so we've been very fortunate to do that. We had a great relationship with Boone County Bank. They made available some property that they had. It was through some foreclosures, but they still had that property and were generous enough to discount it to us so that we could afford to buy the property and put some homes in it for some people. So good relationship with a lot of people here in the community, and we've been fortunate in that regard.
Well, this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I feel that Habitat has done a remarkable job over the years of providing things from people who are willing to go along and work on their own construction. I believe that's part of the Habitat thing. You've got to take the hammer up yourself and
that's right.
Get up there and do that.
You know, the best, I think personally, the best part, besides it being God inspired, the best part about Habitat, it's a hand up, not a handout. And we put our hand out, and all they got to do is hold on. So it's a good program, because I know the biggest misconception about Habitat is most people think we give them a home.
Yes.
And that's just absolutely incorrect. They have to pay for it over a 20-year no-interest loan, and they have to put in 250 to 350 hours working on their own home. And it's a great program to help somebody with a hand up.
Yes, and I do know that interest-free. I was in Iowa at a time in the 90s when the farmers were told get big or get out, and the price of land went up and up and up, and the interest went up and up and up till some of the farmers were paying 22% interest. And then the price of land went down and down and down, and all of a sudden the bankers told the farmer, "Oh, we're sorry, you don't have enough collateral now because your land's only worth $1,000 an acre, not the $3,000 you paid for it." And one of the things about this is once people are in there, if they continue to work, they have a home of their own, much better than they could find in the way of an apartment and other things like that. And I think that's more or less it if you want to answer the phone.
All right.
Well, right here.
This is the interior of a partially completed house. You can see where they're beginning to put the wallboard or plasterboard up. While they're completing the outside work.
Yeah. Looks good. Looks good. Can I write your name on? Oh, no.
9:30, 1 o'clock, second of month.
Oh, yeah.
You guys, 11:30
Yeah, I know it.
Saturday.
I know
It's a
that.
very
They got a lot of
dedication
stuff.
here.
Yeah.
They might just
There'll
have
be
to
food.
call her up.
Jerry, there'll be food.
Oh, I take it up.
Y'all hear me?
Yeah, I
11:30
know, but-
Saturday. There'll be dedication here.
Here?
At
Saturday?
11:30. Right here. Right here.
The 100th house completed, and there's going to be a celebration here for this. As you can see, the walls are done in a plain white. There's the laundry room, furnace, hot water heater in the middle here, and then very tight little bathroom. And then at the back, 3 bedrooms, which are small enough to make it very difficult to film in this area. There you got a circulating fan in that room. The other rooms. Creasy Springs Road. It's a whole little cluster of new homes built by Habitat for Humanity. They're all taking a coffee break right now. Anything that is worthwhile in a larger amount, they will come and pick it up in their trucks, or in a smaller amount, you can bring it by their store. And believe me, I've had some problems with toilets, and in the wintertime I don't have enough heat, and so I've had several stools on me crack over the years.
Hello.
Rows and rows of doors. Only thing I got a question about here is if you have any tall friends, they're liable to get a haircut. You'll pretty much have to duck under that, wouldn't you?
Are you sure it says unscrew? No. I was trying to unscrew and then fix it back. Oh. He went to a different angle, so it's tight in there and trying to loosen up and put it back again. It's not. Yeah, it's not coming down. You see it's tight. It's not. So that's straight. I'm working with it, man. Yeah. How much you do? If you can't get it out, you might have to bring the whole in. No, not that. That's not gonna help anything. Yeah. You have to get it off. Yeah. You have to get it off, or you have to stick something between it so it doesn't shake. You have to be right. Yeah. So, try your hardest.
When did this whole organization get started here in Columbia?
Well, Show Me Central Habitat for Humanity started back in 1988, and a group of men and women got together and just decided that they would like to start a Habitat for Humanity here. And it was Yule Blank and Mel West and some other folks that got together and decided to form a chapter, so they did in 1988.
And was that one of the first in Missouri?
Well, I can't speak to that. I know...
I mean, St. Louis we expect, Kansas City we expect, but I mean, Columbia is not a huge town.
Right. Well, we have been around as long as most of the affiliates here in Missouri, because Habitat International started in 1978, 10 years earlier. And I'll just close this off.
In Habitat's beginning is this book called, with the jawbreaker name, Bocatola. Get a copy of it and read it. It tells in very dramatic, it's written by Millard Fuller. In being 100 years behind is not too bad for me. In 1987, the first National Jimmy Carter Work Day was held at Charlotte, North Carolina. And my wife and I attended that, We heard of it, and to our surprise, we got there and found that there were 5 or 6 others from Columbia there. We built 14 houses in 1 week. Now, somebody had worked for a year before that to get the site ready. But we got together, said, could we do that here? We came back here in 1988 and organized Habitat for Humanity, the Show Me Central Habitat for Humanity, which was the beginnings and is culminating here in 100 houses and 100 plus houses, I guess I should say. The first work day was held in Labor Day of 1988, and the Donna Boyd, who was the first homeowner, moved into her house in the spring of 1989. Early on, there was an early, strong Christian emphasis, which Mel has emphasized here, but we had to struggle for money. We got most of the money from churches, and there were a number of churches that did work programs and that sort of thing. We built simple, no-frill houses, and one of the ongoing interesting conversations that go on in Habitat has been what we might call mission creep, because we were trying to build houses for people who could not afford or own a house by any other means. And of course, the upscale people who are on the board here think, well, we've got to have dishwashers, we've got to have carports, we've got to have garages and that sort of thing. And so there's been a yielding to that. But that's been one of the interesting elements of the church as the program as we've gone along. There have been numerous fundraisers held, and I won't take the time to go into those fundraisers. I became the building supervisor here on the third house. Lee Norbury was the first president and the first building supervisor, and that was a little too much for him, so I took over on the third house, built about the next 7 or 8. In those days, we were scrounging, as you can imagine. Mel West once said in a speech that I heard, it's fiscally irresponsible to start a house without at least $1 in the treasury. And we were almost reduced to that. So we put, in some of the early houses, we put used fixtures, we put used cabinets, and that sort of thing, which we no longer do anymore. But that was part of the struggle for the early days on. And as I say, the church fundraisers and other things, he was quite interested in, he'd given money to it, and at his death, several years later, he bequeathed assets worth about $120,000 that enabled us to buy the Norbury subdivision, which is off Oakland Gravel Road, and where we built multiple houses, about 20 there, or something like that.
In 1988, do you have any idea how many homes you have built?
Oh, sure. Actually, we're celebrating our 100th home on May 7th this weekend. Probably shouldn't have said this weekend, so you can edit that part out.
Well,
sure.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. Okay.
This is not time
Okay.
related.
All right. So sure, we're going to celebrate our 100th home on May 7th over at the corner of Creasy Springs and Proctor Road at 11:30. So we're very excited about that. The Chamber of Commerce is going to be out there along with one of the commissioners, and we're just real excited to have that celebration of our 100th home. You know, it's taken quite a while to get up to 100, so we're very excited about that.
And I'd like to take a tour after I go see the homes that are being built and so on. I'd like to take a tour of your facilities here. I know that when I need a piece of board, when I need a door or something like that, I come to the Habitat's
Restore.
Restore.
Sure.
It's called.
Sure.
Anyway, I've got nails here. You name it, I've got it here.
Yeah.
At one time or another. And how much does that help?
Sure. Well, without a Restore, we would not be able to build. We're building almost 10 homes a year now, and that provides the money for 3 of them. So 3 of the 9 or 10 that we build come right from the generosity of the folks of Columbia who donate to the Restore here.
Yes.
The great part about the Restore is not only do we have used building materials, but they're all donated, and we use those money. We use all the profits from that to fund our homes. But the other great thing is people in the community get a lot of really nice material at a great price, and we keep a lot of material out of the landfill because of that. So it's really a great thing for the community.
What I would like you to do at this point is go ahead and tell them the phone number here so that they can call in, and we'll try to run it on the screen at the same time. Call in if they've got things that they want to contribute.
Sure. Well, if folks wanted to contribute here to the Restore, all they have to do is call 499-1202. The ladies at the office will take the information they have and what kind of donations they have, and they'll write it up. And if it's a large enough donation as far as size, like if it's an appliance, a stove or a refrigerator, we'll come out and pick it up. The smaller items, we do ask that people bring those here because we can't really drive that truck all that distance for a smaller item.
Right, and I do notice that this is kind of become an everything store because you end up with televisions, you end up with microwave ovens, far beyond the things. And I remember that you save knobs off of things so that when I have some friend that's lost a knob off their stove, I come here and look for a part.
Sure, it's amazing all of the little gadgets and knobs and hardware that you can find here in the store. You have to look around. It's kind of hit and miss. They might be over in one corner stuffed underneath the shelf, but we've got a lot of fun items that people can come out and look for and find some things that they didn't think were available anymore.
Now, you also just recently added an addition onto the building.
That's right. Back in March of this year, 2011, we opened up a brand new Restore next door to the one we have now. They're both on Monroe Street here at 1906 Monroe, and it's an addition that it's about 1,800 square foot, and it's made a huge difference in the amount of additional materials that we can take and display in an appropriate manner for the customers.
Yes, and if somebody also would like to know how they could apply to be on the list of people that you would build a house for, how would they go about that? First of all, they call the phone number.
Well, sure, they can call that phone number and we'd be glad to talk to them. Also, they can go to our website, They can go to our website, showmehabitat.org, and get on there, and it has all of the criteria that it takes to apply for a home and the steps that you need to take in order to do that. But if they call, we'll be glad to walk them through it.
Okay, and the other question I've got is the situation now in the country with a lot of unemployment and a lot of people having homes that go underwater, has that increased the number of people who are making inquiries to you about getting a Habitat home?
Maybe not, but it's hard to tell. The number of people that ask about owning a home, it just kind of goes, it fluctuates so drastically from month to month and from week to week. You know, there will be some weeks we won't get one call about it. There's also other weeks that, we'll get so many calls we can't hardly take them all, and keep doing the other jobs that we have to do. But I can tell you that we really don't have a waiting list. We try to let people know whether they qualify or they don't qualify through a pre-questionnaire screening, and we'll screen those folks. And many of the folks don't make enough money. They think they don't, the money's not required. But everybody that gets a Habitat home has to buy their home. They have to purchase their own home, and so they have to have regular income to do that.
And tell me just a little bit about that. What kind of you just built somebody a home, and what kind of a mortgage do they have on it? What is the monthly mortgage?
Sure, I can tell you. Now, it's going to vary from whether it's a 3-bedroom home or a 5-bedroom home, but most of our house payments are around $270 a month, plus their taxes and insurance, which means their payment will be about $425, $450 a month, including their taxes and their insurance. And that's for 20 years. And that's a no-interest loan over 20 years.
Yeah, that's pretty good. And I was just going to say, you can't really live in this community, even rent an apartment for $270.
Well, that's the great thing about the price. With $425 a month, a lot of people end up. It's actually like getting a raise when they get into their new home because they were paying $500 or $525 or whatever the case may be, and so we're actually putting money back into their pocket that they can use elsewhere for the needs of their family.
Okay, and then one of the other things that I was curious about is that we've gotten very green in our lifestyle, and they're always talking about making better insulation, thicker walls, solar this and solar that. Is Habitat changing at all the construction of houses to accommodate that sort of thing? Has anybody in the recent houses said, hey, could we have a solar panel on the roof? Or something like that.
Sure. Well, I would say two things. One, we have a building committee that constantly reviews those kind of items, and in the last 5 years, we have made some changes. We've put in more insulation. We've put in some. We don't do it on every house yet, but we're putting in insulated panels on the concrete on the outside of the slab. We have 90% plus, 95% plus the finished furnaces now, and we're building a pretty tight home too. We've had the vacuum test done on the homes, and it shows a negative flow of air, which means it's so tight that we have to have an opening for air to come into the house when the furnace and high back, all that equipment's working. So we're running a pretty tight home. We've always thought about doing more, but you have to balance the cost of how much more do we want to put into the home versus how many homes can we build. So everything has a cost, and we're always working on that. But I think we're pretty green for the kind of home that we're building.
I'm a bug.
So it's going to be like that.
Okay, so yeah, so here's the bath.
Yeah. So let's.
But the utility room is not here.
Well,
the
here,
utility
let's.
room have to be there.
But you see. Now wait a minute. No, the utility room is going to be right here.
They usually have that off of the carport, don't they?
No, but see, here's where all your hookups are going to be.
The utility room is next to the kitchen.
See, it's going to be right here, just like that. See, it's going to be like this. And there's going to be your utility room. So if we're going to do the bath, we need to come back.
So this is just going to go out, there's going to be a door that's going to go out into the backyard?
Probably not, but that doesn't mean that.
Say, can you?
And in 1945, 45, the American soldier crossed the Rhine River and stay in our village. And when I was a boy, I was 4 years old, and every morning I go around the corner, and a tall, big guy, big soldier, black soldier, lift me up every morning and set me on his knee and feed me with cookies and chocolate, and he share his meal with me every morning. And now I give a little bit back for the American people. And in 1945, 45, the American soldier crossed the Rhine River and stay in our village. And when I was a boy, I was 4 years old, and every morning I go around the corner, and a tall, big guy, big soldier, black soldier, lift me up every morning and set me on his knee and feed me with cookies and chocolate, and he share his meal with me every morning. And now I give a little bit back for the American people. That's the reason.
reporter. They're mostly good-looking girls.
Too little.
First time. I think so. Two of them right here.
Hundredth house completed, and there's going to be a celebration here for this. As you can see, the walls are done in a plain white. There's the laundry room, furnace, hot water heater in the middle here, and then very tight little bathroom. And then at the back, 3 bedrooms, which are small enough to make it very difficult to film in this area. Well,
You do videos as well?
huh?
You do videos?
Yeah, Columbia Access Television. And I'm doing these are the fans and the lighting systems and so on at the Restore store. They now have a second building, and all this stuff is given to them. And if you have anything that is worthwhile in a larger amount, they will come and pick it up in their trucks, or in a smaller amount, you can bring it by their store. And believe me, I've had some problems with toilets, and in the wintertime I don't have enough heat, and so I've had several stools on me crack over the years.
Hello.
Poverty and the continuation of poverty was poor housing. People live in a shack, their children are embarrassed about it, they can't invite their school friends, they don't end up going to college, all those things, you know that, you know why we're here. So they started Habitat, the idea there on Koinonia Farm. Bo and Emma Johnson, a black, I mentioned race because it's important at that time. Bo and Emma Johnson, a black couple with 5 children, helped build the first house, their house. I was there at the 20th anniversary when Bo and Emma Johnson burned the mortgage. All 5 of their college-educated children were standing there with them. You hear that? That's the difference Habitat makes. So it worked with Bo and Emma Johnson and some others, and they said, will it work overseas? We'll try it. Millard and his wife and 3 daughters went to Zaire in 1976. It was certified. I'm trying to think of the right word there. It's a 501c3. And I'd heard about it. We'd been sending some money. In 1986, I went with some folks here, as has been mentioned, to a build. Met Millard, and he and I hit it off pretty well. I heard about the 1,000-mile walk. I went the next year and in 86 and made the walk. It was 85 that we went. In 86, I made the 1,000-mile walk for Habitat from Americus to Kansas City, Missouri. Millard invited me to be on the international board, and I had 6 of the most exciting and hard-working years of my life with Tony Campello and Jimmy Carter and Millard and all of those. A part of the history now, and I'm about ready to close here, but a part of the history is that Habitat suffered and Koinonia suffered severe persecution in those early years. It's hard to realize that now. There are some books that tell that, and there's a DVD that tells it. But we were called communists, we were called end lovers, we were called everything in the books because we were building houses in the Southland for the poor, both white and black. The children in Koinonia Farm, even the white children, could not attend school in Americus. It was bad, and the Ku Klux Klan would drive by the Koinonia Farm and shoot shotguns into the playground, peppering the children with the pelts. So Koinonia's and Millard's response to that was always one of love and grace and forgiveness and understanding. But it had that early history. When we began on the walk, we ran into some of that. I want to say two more things. One is that before I left Habitat as a board member, the elite of Americus, the president of the college, the Chamber of Commerce, the mayor, all the top dogs of Americus invited us to the mayor's home on Saturday evening. We were there for a board meeting and treated us to a marvelous barbecue as only they could do in Americus, and honored Habitat for what it had done. The message, my friend, is that persecution.
Da smo mi došli ovdje sa kesom dokumenta u Sanu.
He's so grateful to American people that in the first 9 years ago that they resettled Salih family in the Columbia, and to all people that they was helping them, because he has to be objective and say that his family just came with one bag with the documents and a little bit personal item, that's all.
I posebno želim da se zahvalim humanoj organizaciji Habitat, koja izišla u susret da pomogne meni i mojoj porodici i mojoj ženi da nam se ovo uradi, ova kuća koja je predana.
And on top of all of that, he would like to be so grateful to the Habitat humanity because they did make him homeowner, and they did give him chance to be homeowner, because without Habitat, he don't think that he can buy a regular house. And this beautiful house to have in America is something like American dream. To build his house, and he will be also available to help him build another houses in the future, and he just want to make for sure that this committee works together.
Interested in Habitat's beginning is this book called, with the jawbreaker name, Bocatola. Get a copy of it and read it. It tells in very dramatic, it's written by Millard Fuller. In being 100 years behind is not too bad for me. In 1987, the first national Jimmy Carter Work Day was held at Charlotte, North Carolina. And my wife and I attended that. We heard of it, and to our surprise, we got there and found that there were 5 or 6 others from Columbia there. We built 14 houses in 1 week. Now, somebody had worked for a year before that to get the site ready. But we got together, said, could we do that here? We came back here in 1988 and organized Habitat for Humanity, the Show Me Central Habitat for Humanity, which was the beginnings and is culminating here in 100 houses and 100 plus houses, I guess I should say. The first work day was held in Labor Day of 1988, and the Donna Boyd, who was the first homeowner, moved into her house in the spring of 1989. Early on, there was an early, strong Christian emphasis, which Mel has emphasized here, but we had to struggle for money. We got most of the money from churches, and there were a number of churches that did work programs and that sort of thing. We built simple, no-frill houses, and one of the ongoing interesting conversations that go on in Habitat has been what we might call mission creep, because we were trying to build houses for people who could not afford or own a house by any other means. And of course, the upscale people who are on the board here think, well, we've got to have dishwashers, we've got to have carports, we've got to have garages and that sort of thing. And so there's been a yielding to that. But that's been one of the interesting elements of the church as the program as we've gone along. There have been numerous fundraisers held, and I won't take the time to go into those fundraisers. I became the building supervisor here on the third house. Lee Narberry was the first president and the first building supervisor, and that was a little too much for him, so I took over on the third house, built about the next 7 or 8. In those days, we were scrounging, as you can imagine. Mel West once said in a speech that I heard, it's fiscally irresponsible to start a house without at least $1 in the treasury. And we were almost reduced to that. So we put, in some of the early houses, we put used fixtures, we put used cabinets, and that sort of thing, which we no longer do anymore. But that was part of the struggle for the early days on. And as I say, the church fundraisers and other things. He was quite interested, and he'd given money to it. And at his death, several years later, he bequeathed assets worth about $120,000 that enabled us to buy the Narberry subdivision, which is off Oakland Gravel Road, and where we built multiple houses, about 20 there, or something like that. That was the first really large gift. Other large gifts have come along. Well, I'll mention that. But also a person who had been the president here was Joanne Humphrey, a young lady. She contracted cancer shortly after that and died, but she left money which enabled us to build the current office for Habitat for Humanity, which is 1906 Monroe Drive. Shortly after that, since we had space in there, we appointed a committee to build a restore, a store that takes in used appliances and building materials and that sort of thing, resells them to the community, keeping things out of the landfill, providing a service to the community, and raising funds for Habitat. That was started around the year 2000 because the office was dedicated in 1999, and shortly after that was done, the Dentons, you know Dave and Carol Denton, donated an Isuzu truck to Habitat to pick up materials and haul things around and that sort of thing. Well, I'm going to, in my family, the custom is that my wife always has the last word, and she was the first treasurer of Habitat, and so she has some of the last word.
I didn't realize when that job came to me that that I was also finance chairman, and along with finance chairman, we needed money. We decided to do quarterly newsletters, and so that also became a part of my job. Well, I think the reason we were successful is because we followed Millard Fuller's recommendation on how to start. Millard said that you buy the lot and you select the family and you do the house plan, and then you put up a big sign and you have a groundbreaking, and then you start digging. So when we had, and then the Habitat International sent us a $2,000 loan that we were to pay back in 2 years. So that's how we got the money together for the first lot. Then after that, that loan was to be paid back in 2 years, as I said, so that wasn't a gift to us. Letter Jane was the secretary at the church, and she knew exactly how to work with the post office and get the mailings ready for mailing. And of course we had to develop a mailing list. That was another big job to accomplish. Then we also invited the families to help us when we were stuffing the letters, and that way we got much better acquainted with our families, and they of course used that as part of their sweat equity. As you said, the churches have been our most valuable supporters, and our newsletter was one of those fundraisers. And of the fundraisers, we still have 5 churches that are still supporting us annually with the fundraisers. And those churches are, I'm sure you'd like to know that, Community Methodist, Calvary Episcopal, Broadway Christian, and the Methodist Church in Centralia has, until very recently, had an annual fundraiser for us. And I might say the people in Centralia have been very cooperative. When we started this, there were, as Mel knew a couple of years ago, we did everything you can think of. We sold nails, and we sold frozen cookie mix. Anything anyone said, gave us a little money, we caught on to it and worked with it and had made the money that we needed. But in conclusion, I need to say that we never were slowed down in the building process because we were out of money. So I think that the process that we use for Miller Fullers has worked.
One of my houses is the third house is built. I knew Lee and Ewell, and I knew Joanne, and we, like I said, we was one of the first ones sort of coming along, because it was all probably built in about 2 or 3 years' time. And I knew the Starks, they was the second house, and I knew the lady on Boyd Lane. But Habitat's been good to me. I couldn't have done it without them, and I really appreciate it. And I'm glad to see Habitat's still, got a good gathering. I mean, I don't know none of you, Harley, but I knew a lot of the older gentlemen. I don't know how old you are now, but they're getting up there. I know I'm getting up there, so they're still looking good and getting along. I hope I can make it. But I really appreciate it, and it's good to see Habitat. Like you said, they didn't used to build the carports, and you used to always tell me, sort of appreciate whatever you get, because like he said, Richard, whatever you do, don't get a ride more to cut that grass. He said, which I didn't listen to that, though. I went without one anyway. But and then Ewell used to, and then Lee used to tell me, I used to go over to his house, and he said, Rich, sometimes they're going to complain about the house and it's not.
I was for a short time on the board, and then decided I wanted, for some reason, to work on city council, so I didn't have enough time to vote. So the board graciously let me step aside for a bit, and I sure hope to get back on there when my time on council is finished. But I was going to mention, and Mr. King stole a little bit of my thunder, but the pride that comes with home ownership is something that's being offered to folks, good people like Mr. King and the family today, and the folks who maybe ordinarily might not have had that opportunity, but they work hard and they realize the benefit that a lot of people who are a little more fortunate were able to do. So I think it's a good day for Columbia to see the 100th house. It's one of the many things that make our city so good. Among the volunteers, we've got the chamber folks here that work hard. We've got all the folks who volunteer for these houses, the board of directors. Everyone that's involved is willing to give their time And I volunteer on council, and I like to be included in a group of people that work for others just because it's the right thing to do. So I want to congratulate everyone that's involved in this project and the many others that have been before this and are soon to come. So thank everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for attending today, and please congratulate the homeowners because they deserve it.
All right, next up we have our family partner, Joanne Mermelstein.
On this beautiful day and coming into this gorgeous new home on Emery Street, I understand we have Mrs. Emery with us today also to christen her street, right? But I want to introduce the family. They are from Bosnia, and I know they will invite you, but they also brought some wonderful Bosnian food for you to enjoy afterward. Sally and Razia Mehmetovic. They are the homeowners. This is their son-in-law, Sanad. They also have their daughter here, Anissa, their granddaughter, Layla. I don't know where they are, hiding. And their son, Anas. So, wonderful day for them, and they have a few words to say.
Da smo mi došli ovdje sa kesom dokumenta sami.
He's so grateful to American people that in the first 9 years ago that they resettled Salih family in the Colombia, and to all people that they was helping them, because he has to be objective and say that his family just came with one bag with the documents and a little bit personal item, that's all.
I posebno želim da se zahvalim humanoj organizaciji Habitat, koja izišla u susret da pomogne meni i mojoj porodici, mojoj ženi, da nam se ovo uradi, ova kuća koja je predstavljena.
And on top of all of that, he would like to be so grateful to the Habitat humanity because they did make him homeowner, and they did give him chance to be homeowner, because without Habitat, he don't think that he can buy a regular house. And this beautiful house to have in America is something like American dream. To build his house, and he will be also available to help him to build another houses in the future, and he just will make for sure that this community works together.
Ne znam šta bi više da kažem, malo sam uzeti tremu, ali ipak hvala svima.
And then the home is theirs. So they're homeowners. This is not a gift. This is done for folks who may otherwise not be able to own a home. And Habitat is a great organization to be able to help families meet the American dream. Each family puts in 250 to 300 hours of sweat equity, either on their own home or on other Habitat homes that are being built. So again, there's nothing free about this. These folks work very, very hard to live in and own their own homes. I wanted you to be sure and know that. We are, of course, dedicating our 100th home today. In the mix, 102, 101, 102, and 103. So things continue to move as Habitat continues to build homes.
So it's going to be like that.
Yeah, so here's the bath.
Yeah, so let's...
But the utility room is not here.
Well, here, let's go.
have to be there.
But you see... Now, wait a minute. No, the utility room is going to be right here.
They usually have that off of the carport, don't they?
No, but see, here's where all your hookups are going to be.
The utility room is next to the kitchen.
See, it's going to be right here, just like that. And there's the door. And it's going to be like this. And there's going to be your utility room. So if we're going to do the bath, we need to come back. Okay. No. It's not going to work. Well.
Say, can you tell me something? What's the average age of the ones that are working out here? Volunteers. Mainly older?
I'm from Germany. I'm from Germany.
Okay.
And do you want to know the reason? The reason why I work here?
Yes.
Okay. I'm born 1941.
Yes.
In the time of the World War II. And when I was a boy, I woke up every morning and go around the corner. And around the corner in our village, I was an American soldier, American soldier. And in the first car sit a tall soldier, a big guy. And he lift me up every morning and sit me on his knee and feed me with cookie and with chocolate and with everything. He share his meal with me. And in 1945, the American soldier crossed the Rhine River and stay in our village. And when I was a boy, was 4 years old, and every morning I go around the corner, and a tall, big guy, big soldier, a black soldier, lift me up every morning and set me on his knee and feed me with cookies and chocolate, and he share his meal with me every morning. And now I give a little bit back for the American people. I can give a little bit back for the American people. That's the reason.
That's a very nice story.
We moved to Colombia 2007. We have a daughter here in the town. That's family together now.
That's good. Thank you.
Great donors, great sponsors. For example, Boone County National Bank, who donated a plot of ground where we're going to be able to build roughly 25 homes on Old Plank Road, south of Columbia. So there are just so many folks who help Habitat year in and year out. They volunteer their treasury, they volunteer their time, they volunteer their muscles, they volunteer their brains, and of course their heart. And we always need that. We will always need that. There are a couple of groups in particular that I would like to thank and recognize individually. One would be all of the volunteers who help build the homes. And then I believe we have the day crew here today, and they're the ones who really pull it all together and make sure that these homes get built the way they're supposed to get built. Anybody on the day crew, would you please stand up? We're just in charge of the day crew, and we couldn't build these homes.
That's how it should be.
My name is Tom Trayview with Trayview Hansen Henshaw Consulting Engineers, and we're the Chamber Ambassadors, and we're honored that you've invited us to help you celebrate the dedication of the 100th home, and I congratulate you as the new homeowners. This is wonderful. And if everybody could look this way, we're going to go ahead and set up.
I don't know Eric. Yeah, John's dad, Bob, right?
He's got 16. Yeah,
I think most of that side of the family is Baptist. So I got friends. While I am a Methodist because of my mother.
He's in and out. He goes to school.
My dad's side of the family.
He's still he was gone so much.
Thank you for saying something. I appreciate it.
He said,
well, I'm not moving for a fiscal year, so I think, gosh, I don't know. Jerry, when does the, yeah, John's dad was Bob, right?
He's got 16. Yeah,
I think most of that side of the family is Baptist. So I got friends. While I am a Methodist because of my mother.
He's in and out. He goes to school.
My dad's side of the family.
He's still he was gone so much.
Thank you for saying something. I appreciate it.
He said,
well, I'm not moving for a fiscal year, so I think, gosh, I don't know. Jerry, when do we roll around to our next term?
Yes,
July 1. So there we go. Yes, we are. Yeah, well, you're welcome anytime. 7 o'clock.
Oh, be glad when your wife not tell your.
Thank you.